In the vastness of space, where stars flickered like distant memories of hope, the Zafir Empire ruled with an iron grip over 800 star systems. For more than 3 millennia, they had established what they called cosmic order, a hierarchy where humans occupied the lowest rungs as laborers, miners, and servants. In this cosmic theater of power, humans were considered little more than functional tools, disposable and replaceable. The year was 5327 Galactic Era. On Titan O Station, a massive mining facility drifting in the void between stars, 20-year-old Isabella "Izzy" Carter adjusted her worn engineer's gloves. The station hummed with the endless drone of machinery, extraction pumps pulling valuable minerals from the asteroid field nearby. Through the viewing port, only infinite stars and darkness greeted anyone who looked outside. Izzy tucked a strand of brown hair behind her ear as she examined the communication circuit panel. As the youngest qualified engineer on the station, she had earned respect through sheer technical brilliance, rather than the impossible luxury of seniority. Humans rarely lived long enough in these conditions to become senior anything. "Carter, finish up in subsection 7. We need those comms back online before shift change," crackled her supervisor's voice through the intercom. "Almost done," she replied, her voice steady despite the fatigue of a 14-hour shift. The Titan O Station was a marvel of Zafir engineering, a labyrinth of metal corridors, power conduits, and extraction machinery. For the 2,000 humans who called it home, it was both workplace and prison. The station's infrastructure reflected Zafir efficiency, minimal comfort, maximum productivity. Every aspect of life was monitored through the Zafir broadcast network, which carried both entertainment and imperial propaganda throughout the empire. Izzy descended into the subterranean communication chamber, where maintenance was needed on a faulty circuit. The room was cramped, filled with blinking lights and humming machinery. She worked methodically, testing connections and replacing damaged components. The solitude of these maintenance tunnels was the closest thing to privacy humans ever experienced. As she connected the final wire, something unexpected happened. The communication panel activated itself, bypassing normal authorization protocols. A transmission began playing, not through the speakers, but directly into the neural interface embedded in all communication engineers. "Project Universe Cleanse is proceeding on schedule," came a cold, aristocratic Zafir voice. "The first 20 star systems will be sanitized within the next 14 days. The reactor failures have been engineered to appear as accidents, with all safety protocols seamlessly disabled. Conservative estimates place human casualties at 5 million, with minimal impact on production capabilities." Another voice responded. "The High Council is pleased. Once the initial phase proves successful, we can accelerate the timeline for the remaining human populations. The universe will be cleaner for it." Izzy froze, her hands hovering over the circuit board. She recognized the voice, High Commander Zex Valnar, one of the 12 members of the Zafir Supreme Council. This wasn't propaganda or rumor. This was a direct, high-security transmission between the Empire's leadership. They were planning genocide, systematic genocide disguised as industrial accidents across 20 star systems. Her mind raced. The transmission had appeared on her panel by some miraculous glitch, perhaps a routing error in the quantum network. Whatever the cause, she now possessed information that could save millions of lives. With trembling fingers, Izzy activated her personal data chip, a forbidden item that could mean immediate execution if discovered. She began copying the transmission, along with the metadata that confirmed its authenticity. The data contained precise details, coordinates, timelines, and methods. The attacks would begin in exactly 14 days, targeting the most densely populated human mining colonies. Her breathing shallow, Izzy completed the download just as the communication panel reset itself. 5 million lives. That was the number casually mentioned by the Zafir commanders, 5 million humans to be eliminated in accidents that would never raise suspicions. As an engineer, Izzy understood the technical specifications described in the transmission. The Zephyr planned to sabotage critical reactor safeguards, triggering catastrophic failures that would appear as tragic malfunctions. No one would question it. Human facilities suffered accidents frequently due to age and poor maintenance. Izzy knew she had to warn someone, anyone who might help prevent this massacre. But who? The Empire controlled all official communication channels. Unauthorized transmissions were detected and traced within minutes. And even if she could warn the targeted colonies, evacuation was impossible. The Empire strictly controlled all transportation. As she climbed back through the maintenance shaft, Izzy made her decision. The consequences were clear. By attempting to expose this plan, she would almost certainly forfeit her life. But inaction meant complicity in genocide. That night, in her tiny quarters, Izzy translated the Zephyr technical specifications into human language. The transmission was classified at the highest security level, accessible only to the Imperial High Command and a few select administrators. She extracted the critical information, target locations, methods, and timing. During her years at the Engineering Academy, Izzy had heard whispers of human resistance groups. Most dismissed these as hopeful myths. The Empire's surveillance was too pervasive for organized resistance. But the rumors persisted of 8 resistance cells scattered throughout the Empire. If even one existed, they needed this information. Using her engineering access, Izzy created a secure transmission protocol that would bounce her message through maintenance channels, systems the Zephyr considered too insignificant to monitor closely. She encoded the message with an ancient Earth encryption method, one that predated the Empire and might escape their pattern recognition algorithms. Her message was simple. Project Universe Cleanse. Genocide plan targeting 20 human colonies in 14 days. Reactor sabotage disguised as accidents. Authenticate with attached data. 5 million lives at stake. Share if you exist. She sent identical transmissions to 8 different locations where resistance cells supposedly operated, knowing that the likelihood of any reaching their destination was minuscule. Then, she deleted all traces from her personal systems and resumed her normal routine, awaiting either silence or discovery. For 3 days, nothing happened. Izzy continued her maintenance duties, the weight of her knowledge crushing her spirit. Had the messages failed to reach anyone? Were the resistance groups merely wishful thinking? On the 4th day, her question was answered. As she returned from her shift, she found the corridor to her quarters blocked by Zephyr security forces. At their center stood Captain Cathar Voss, head of station security, his metallic blue skin gleaming under the harsh lights. "Engineer Isabella Carter," Cathar announced, his 4 eyes focusing on her with predatory intensity. "You are detained for investigation of data theft and unauthorized transmission of classified Imperial information." Izzy considered running, but knew it was futile. The station had no escape pods, no civilian vessels. There was nowhere to go. She stood straight, meeting Cathar's gaze. "Your quarters and engineering access points have been searched," Cathar continued. "Traces of unauthorized transmissions were detected. You will be interrogated to determine the extent of your treasonous activities." 2 guards seized her arms. As they marched her away, Izzy caught a glimpse of her fellow engineers watching silently from the shadows, faces filled with fear and perhaps a flicker of respect. None would intervene. None could. They took her to the Zephyr wing of the station, an area forbidden to humans except under direct escort. The interrogation chamber was designed for psychological impact. Stark, white walls, brilliant lights, and a single metal chair bolted to the floor. For hours, Cathar questioned her, his methods alternating between calm reasoning and explosive threats. The Zephyr were masters of psychological manipulation, using both fear and false compassion to extract information. "We know you transmitted classified information," Cathar said, pacing around her chair. "The quantum trace is unmistakable. What we don't know is who received it. Tell us, and your death will be quick and painless." Izzy remained silent, her resolve strengthening with each passing hour. If the resistance existed and had received her message, every minute she endured gave them more time to act. Cathar's patience eventually wore thin. "You misunderstand your situation, human. You are not a martyr, you are a thief. A thief who stole Imperial secrets and distributed them without authorization. When physical intimidation and psychological pressure failed to break her, Cathar changed tactics. Perhaps you believe your actions serve some greater purpose. Let me enlighten you about the reality of your species. Humans are a biological accident, a temporary evolutionary branch that should have died out centuries ago. Your kind reproduces too quickly, consumes too many resources, and lacks the intellectual capacity for true cosmic civilization. Project Universe Cleanse is not genocide, it is cosmic hygiene. It is. Still, Izzy said nothing. Her silence was her only weapon now. After 2 days of interrogation, Cathar received new orders. Izzy was transferred to a prisoner transport vessel bound for Xenia Prime, the capital world of the Zafir Empire. The journey took 3 days, during which she was kept in solitary confinement. Upon arrival, she was brought before the Zafir Supreme Council, 12 ancient beings who had ruled the empire for centuries. The council chamber, a vast amphitheater of gold and crystal, symbolized the wealth extracted from countless worlds under their dominion. High Commander Zex Valnar addressed the assembly. "The human Isabella Carter has committed the highest form of treason against the Empire. She has stolen classified military information and attempted to distribute it to seditious elements. The evidence is irrefutable." The judgment was swift. In light of recent disturbances in human labor sectors, the Council deems it necessary to make an example of this transgressor. Isabella Carter will be publicly executed. The execution will be broadcast throughout the Empire to demonstrate the consequences of defiance. Public executions were rare in the Empire, not from mercy, but because the Zafir considered them inefficient. This exception indicated the seriousness with which they viewed Izzy's actions. As she was led away, Izzy realized that the recent disturbances, mentioned by Valnar, might indicate her message had reached someone. Perhaps resistance movements were already responding to her warning. For the first time since her capture, she felt a flicker of hope. The execution was scheduled for the following day at the Imperial Grand Arena on Xenia Prime. The arena could hold 2 million spectators, and the broadcast would reach an estimated 700 billion viewers across 800 star systems. In her cell, Izzy prepared herself mentally for what was to come. She had never aspired to heroism, had never imagined herself as anything more than a competent engineer doing her job. Now, facing death, she found clarity of purpose. If her execution would be broadcast, she would use that platform to amplify her warning. The day of execution arrived. The Imperial Grand Arena on Xenia Prime filled with spectators, predominantly Zafir citizens, with a few privileged members of allied species. Humans were conspicuously absent, except for a small group of laborers forced to attend as witnesses. At precisely 15:57 Galactic Standard Time, Izzy was led to the execution platform. The arena fell silent as cameras focused on her. She appeared small and fragile against the backdrop of the massive arena, her prison uniform hanging loosely on her frame after days of captivity. Imperial protocol allowed condemned prisoners a final statement before execution. This tradition, originally intended to give prisoners an opportunity to express remorse and affirm the justice of the Empire, was about to serve a very different purpose. High Commander Valnar gestured for Izzy to speak. The broadcast system amplified her voice to reach every corner of the arena and every connected screen throughout the Empire. Izzy raised her head, looking directly into the primary camera. In that moment, her fear vanished, replaced by absolute certainty. "My name is Isabella Carter, human engineer from Titan Station," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I am sentenced to die because I discovered the truth about Project Universe Cleanse, a Zafir plan to murder 5 million humans in staged accidents across 20 star systems." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Valnar moved to signal the executioners, but another council member restrained him. Protocol demanded the statement be completed. "To every human watching this broadcast, in mines, factories, farms, and spacecraft throughout the Empire, I speak directly to you now." Izzy continued. "For 3,000 years, we have served as the Empire's tools. We have built their cities, extracted their resources, grown their food, and received nothing but contempt in return." Her eyes blazed with intensity as she delivered her final message. "The Zafir believe us weak because we accept our suffering with quiet dignity. They mistake our patience for submission. They fail to understand that the blood of Earth still flows in our veins, the blood of a species that survived catastrophes, unified continents, and reached for the stars before the Zafir found us." Throughout the Empire, humans paused in their labors. In dim mining tunnels on Kepler 9, Jared Jake Miller and his fellow miners stopped their drills to watch the broadcast on grimy screens. In the robotic assembly plants of Titan Gear, Amara, Amy Nguyen, and hundreds of technicians gathered around monitors. On Agricultural World Green 7, farmers looked up from their fields as Izzy's voice echoed from speakers. "Today, they execute one human girl thinking it will inspire fear," Izzy declared. "Instead, let it awaken your pride. Let it remind you that we were never meant to be slaves. We were explorers, inventors, dreamers. That heritage cannot be erased." In the council chamber, Valnar hissed to his colleagues, "End this transmission immediately." But it was too late. Across the Empire, billions of humans were hearing Izzy's words. "Look to each other now," she said. "Remember who we are. Remember what we can do when we stand together. The Empire thinks us scattered and broken, but they are wrong. We are still here." At exactly 16 Os Galactic Standard Time, Valnar gave the execution order. The executioner raised his weapon. Izzy's final words rang out, "Remember, we are still here." The shot was fired. Izzy's body crumpled to the platform, blood spattering across the white metal surface. The camera lingered on the scene, following standard protocol to confirm death for the viewers. Then something unprecedented happened. At 1601, every human throughout the Zafir Empire, from mining stations to agricultural worlds, from manufacturing plants to transport vessels, simultaneously stopped moving. Workers stood motionless at their stations. Engineers froze with tools in hand. Pilots sat rigid in cockpits. Every single human being entered a state of complete stillness, as if time itself had halted. Zafir supervisors shouted commands, then threats. Some resorted to physical force. Nothing roused the humans from their trance-like state. This synchronized pause lasted exactly 2 minutes. During this time, something remarkable occurred within the collective human consciousness. A genetic memory, long dormant, awakened. Ancient Earth knowledge, encoded in DNA and passed down through generations, surged through neural pathways. Technical knowledge, strategic plans, and a coordinated resistance strategy that had been hidden within human genetic memory for millennia suddenly became accessible. At 1603, humans throughout the Empire simultaneously awakened from their trance. But they were changed. Their movements were purposeful, coordinated. Without speaking, they began implementing what resistance leaders would later call Phase 1, a complex sabotage operation that targeted the Empire's communication and control systems. On Kepler 9, Jake Miller and his mining crew disabled the primary power relays. At Titan Gear, Eamon Nguyen reprogrammed industrial robots to target security systems instead of manufacturing components. On Research Station Canary 1, Dr. Alex Harper, a human scientist who had been raised on a Zafir world and considered himself more aligned with the Empire than humanity, found himself overwhelmed by the genetic awakening. Despite his lifetime of loyalty to Zafir values, he found himself compulsively sabotaging the military research database, uploading an ancient binary virus called Binary O that had been encoded in his genetic memory. The virus spread through the Empire's quantum network, disabling security protocols and communications. Zafir warships orbiting Xenia Prime suddenly lost control systems. The Imperial Command Center found itself unable to contact planetary governors or military installations. In the Imperial Grand Arena, chaos erupted as the broadcast system failed, screens going dark throughout the facility. Council members were rushed to secure locations, but found that automated transport systems had malfunctioned. Security doors sealed randomly, trapping Zafir officials in corridors and chambers. Meanwhile, in the Void Nebula, a region of space believed uninhabitable due to radiation and navigational hazards, a hidden fleet emerged. The Human Liberation Fleet, commanded by Admiral Helena Asher, had maintained its secret existence for centuries, waiting for this precise moment. When Izzy's warning reached them, they had accelerated their plans, positioning ships throughout the Empire in preparation for the genetic awakening. By 1633, exactly 33 minutes after Izzy's execution, the Zafir Empire effectively collapsed. Imperial ships were disabled. Communication networks failed. Planetary defense systems went offline. Human workers seized control of critical infrastructure on hundreds of worlds. Admiral Asher transmitted an ultimatum to the stranded Supreme Council. The Zafir Empire ends today. Withdraw all forces to Xenia Prime. Release all human prisoners. Accept our terms for peaceful coexistence, or face extinction. You have 25 minutes to respond. The Council, isolated and powerless, had no choice. At 1658, the final Zafir Emperor signed the Dissolution Order, ending 3,000 years of imperial rule. Star systems were granted autonomy. The strict hierarchy that had defined galactic society crumbled in less than an hour. In the aftermath, humans across the galaxy learned the full story. Isabella Carter, an ordinary engineer, had discovered a genocide plan and sacrificed herself to warn others. Her execution, meant to instill fear, had instead triggered a pre-programmed genetic response, the culmination of centuries of careful planning by human resistance leaders. The seemingly docile human workers had never truly accepted their subjugation. For generations, they had carried within their DNA both the technical knowledge of ancient Earth and a dormant program designed to activate when specific conditions were met. Izzy's broadcast had been the final trigger, the signal that unified billions of humans in a single moment of awakening. In the years that followed, a memorial was established in the former Imperial Grand Arena, now renamed Freedom Square. A holographic image of Izzy stood where the execution platform had once been, her final words inscribed in light. Remember, we are still here. Today, human children gather at the old Empire Museum, looking up with wonder at Isabella Carter's portrait. They learn how a single engineer's courage awoke the sleeping strength of humanity and changed the course of galactic history in just 33 minutes. For the former Zafir rulers, now confined to their homeworld and a handful of nearby systems, the lesson was devastating. They had conquered human territories, enslaved human bodies, but never truly understood the human spirit, or the power of ancient Earth knowledge, preserved through millennia in the most secure database of all, human DNA. The stars belong to many species now, and the former empire is remembered as a dark chapter in galactic history. But the story of Isabella Carter echoes across worlds, a reminder that freedom is never free. that it is purchased with courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of shared heritage. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, perhaps the spirit of a young engineer looks upon her legacy with quiet pride, knowing that her 33 minutes of courage granted freedom to billions. Wait, grandfather. That can't be the whole story, the child said, eyes wide with wonder as they sat among the glowing memory crystals of the Remembrance Hall. How did our ancestors encode memories in DNA? How did they know the trigger would work after 3,000 years? The old man smiled, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue light of Isabella Carter's memorial crystal. An excellent question, one that historians still debate. Some believe Earth scientists perfected genetic memory encoding during the final days before the Zafir invasion. Others think the resistance leaders developed it gradually, over centuries of secret research. And the binary O virus? How could something so ancient defeat Zafir technology? Sometimes the oldest weapons are the most effective, precisely because they're forgotten, the grandfather explained. The Zafir built their networks on quantum principles. But the virus used classic binary logic from Earth's early computing age, an approach so primitive that modern security couldn't recognize or counter it. The child touched the memorial crystal gently. I wish I could have met her. In a way, you have, the grandfather said. Every time you exercise your freedom, every time you reach for the stars without fear, you honor Isabella Carter's legacy. The Zafir thought one death would maintain their power. Instead, it awakened billions of lives. Together, they walked from the Remembrance Hall into the bright sunlight of a free world, where humans and 100 other species now lived in harmony, all because of 33 minutes that changed the universe forever. On the distant world of Xenia Prime, now a shadow of its former glory, the last generation of full-blooded Zafir contemplated their fallen empire. Among their philosophers, a saying had emerged: beware the patience of the oppressed, for it is not submission, but preparation. And in deep space, at the coordinates where Titan Station once orbited, a small memorial satellite broadcasts a simple message on an endless loop. Remember Isabella Carter. Remember we are still here. The universe listens and remembers.